بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. In the name of Allah, may the best of peace and blessings be on our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam and his followers until the day of judgment. Continue inshaAllah ta'ala the halaqat, Seerah, the life of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, our example, our beloved Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. We got all the way to Hijrah. 13 years of suffering, of agony has passed or have passed already, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the few Muslims who accepted Islam, they had to withstand, and they had to take this kind of suffering during all of that time. But now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the permission to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam to make a hijrah. He made the preparations, and along with his friend Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, they got together. And we discussed the details how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the miracle to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam by he was able to get out of his house in front of those youth, strong youth coming to kill him, assassinate him. And they were open-eyed, even though they were open-eyed, they did not see the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam as he was coming out. He went to Ghari Thawr, the cave of Thawr, spent 3 nights in there along with his friend As-Sahabi Al-Jalil Abu Bakr As-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, until Quraysh knew that once Quraysh would know that he he escaped their grip, they will go crazy. And this is what happened. So they were searching everywhere in Mecca, every corner of Mecca they searched it. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam stayed there from Thursday until Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then Sunday night, Laylatul Ithnain, which is Sunday night, he decided sallallahu alaihi wasallam to leave. But during these nights, he had a very specific plan, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He hired Abdullah ibn Urayqit, even though he was not Muslim, but he had the expertise, the experience he was a good guide. He knows the routes, different routes in the desert, because the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was planning not to take the ordinary route. He was planning to take some deep, far away place or way, so people would not discover him. That's why he headed south. The Ghar Thawr is 5 miles from Mecca. Nowadays it's actually within the suburbs of Mecca, within Mecca itself, towards Yemen, south, even though Medina is north. Stayed there for 3 days, where Abdullah ibn Abu Bakr, the son of Abu Bakr, used to bring them the news. He comes at night, tell them what happened during this day. And Amr ibn Fuhayra, the slave boy of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he used to come with his sheep, so the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Bakr would drink from the milk. And also for another purpose, while Abdul Rahman is leaving them, he used to take all of his sheep and walk on his traces, on his footsteps, so he will not leave any traces, because they were Quraysh and nomads until nowadays, especially at this time. They were experts in following the traces. They are very professional as far as this. They can even tell you if this step or footstep is for a boy, for a man or woman. They can tell you a lot of details, how tall, how big, from the trace of the footstep on the sand. Until nowadays, I've seen some people like this. They can tell you. So one of the reasons, Amr ibn Fuhayra, this boy who was a shepherd, he used to come to them. It was a plan that he will give them the milk, and he will, wipe out these traces by make the sheep go over them. Sayyidah Asma, that in the Taqayn, the daughter of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, she was a young girl, almost a teenager at this time. She was actually married and she was pregnant, but she used to bring them the food. She used to tie the food, shaqqat nitaqaha, this kind of belt that she used to wrap around her waist. She got it into 2 pieces, and she used to put the food in there and bring them the food and the news as well. Until Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam decided to leave. That was on as we said, on Sunday night. So they headed further south. So they will go away. Everybody will, Quraysh expected that he will leave towards Medina. So most likely people will be searching anywhere towards the north. not the south. He headed south ﷺ for a few miles, and then Abdullah ibn Urayqit, this guide, he took them, they headed west towards the coast, the Red Sea coast, and then they turned, north, far away from an old route that people usually do not take this route or this path in the desert anymore. But it was safe for them, and Abdullah ibn Urayqit knew it very well. They continued this night, and then half of the next day, and then they took a rest for a while. They passed by a shepherd and they got some milk, and then they continued. In the next day, they will pass by the tent of Ma'bad, Khaymat Ma'bad, and that was a very important station in there. They found this tent and this lady. They greeted her, and they, said, we are travelers in the desert, and do you have anything that you can host us on or something? She excused herself and she said, I don't have anything. My husband is not here. He got all the sheep, and they are far away. They are not even close by. They are far away because it's, this time is, we don't have enough. It's in the middle of the desert anyway. Not enough food, so he has to go far away. But the Nabi ﷺ saw a very, sick, weak, slim goat. Not a goat, a ma'za, and it's a female goat, towards one of the corners, in one of the corners of the tent. And he asked permission. Do you give me the permission to milk this little goat there? She said, go ahead, but there is no milk. That's very weak. That's almost dying. That's why it was left behind. It's not even able to walk. That's why it didn't go with the rest of the herd. So he said, but just give me permission to do it. I'll try. She gave him permission. Another miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will ask for a big pot, big container, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would keep milking this dying goat until this big container will be full. He will offer her first. He will offer her the milk. She will drink, and then offer him Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. And by the way, it's very famous that we know it wasn't only him and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, but actually they had a third person with them, Amir ibn Fuhayra. He was accompanying them as well. He gave Amir ibn Fuhayra as well to drink, and then he drank sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the remaining. And then he milked the sheep again, or he will go this goat, she goat again. He milked it again until he filled the container to leave it full with full milk for this lady. This lady was amazed. It was like a miracle for her. How could this happen? Then they left. They left peacefully. At the end of the day, when her husband came, he asked her, where is this milk coming from? She mentioned the story of the two people or the three people who passed by her, and she mentioned the story of the Prophet ﷺ, and she actually gave a hadith that until nowadays it's still in the books of hadith, giving a very detailed description of the features and the body of the Prophet ﷺ, in detail, how his face is like, how his body is like. She was describing him to her husband, and her husband, he knew, he was waiting for him. He said, by Allah, I expected them to make Hijrah, to pass by us or something, and I was planning to join them. He accepted Islam actually, and Nabi ﷺ continued. People in Medina knew that he left Mecca and he should be in his way, so they were expecting him to come anytime. So every day they used to come all the way to the borders of Medina, looking for him, waiting for him every day in the morning like this, until it was the heat of the midday that will cause them to go back, not seeing anybody, and it becomes very hot. Let's go back. Until one day Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam continued for a week. So he traveled at what day again? From Mecca? Sunday night. Early Monday morning or something. So this Monday he reached Quba, it used to be again a different city. Medina is a city, or Yathrib, and Quba is a different city, but now it's all one city. He reached Quba next Monday, so it took them sallallahu alaihi wasallam a week, and his companion took them a week to reach over there. It's almost close to 450 kilometers, anywhere over 300 miles anyway. So he reached on Monday, and he stayed in Quba from Monday all the way to Friday. On Friday for 4 days. Friday he left to Medina, just a few miles, and he sent to his akhwal, the relatives from the maternal relatives to the Prophet ﷺ, cousins from the mother's side, because we know, you remember this, the very beginning of the story, we said his father, or actually his great-grandfather Abdul Manaf, when he passed by Medina, he got married there. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he got some relatives in there, Akhwalu Bani Najjar. So he sent to them that I'm coming, and you know, he wanted to have them like waiting for him and so on. They actually came to receive a Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with all the full, you know, attire, you know, getting ready. This is our guest anyway. So he's coming to his people, along with most of Medina at this time accepted Islam. He came on Friday. The Salatul Jum'ah, you know, أدركتهم في الطريق. You know, the time came while they were in these few miles, so they prayed in the middle, somewhere, Diyar Bani Auf or كذا. They made Salatul Jum'ah. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam then rode the camel, Abu Bakr behind him, and they came to Medina where everybody was waiting. All Medina is outside. Everybody is, you know, يعني قالوا ضجت المدينة أو ارتجت المدينة بالتقديس والتسبيح والتكبير. Everybody was making takbir and, you know, reciting these طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع to the end of it. They recited this very famous poet, يعني receiving the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, that he appeared to them and they were waiting for him عليه الصلاة والسلام. Everybody was almost fighting to get him. Ya Rasulullah, let me host you. And everybody was trying to take the zimam al-naqa, the camel, to grab the camel towards his house. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam يقول leave her alone. She is being guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She knows where she is going. They left the camel until she went all the way to where the masjid of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is nowadays, the Masjid al-Nabawi. We forgot to say something. When he came to Quba, he built a masjid there. And this is the first masjid ever built in Islam that he built, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even before the Masjid al-Nabawi, the Masjid in Quba, Allah said in the Quran, لَمَسْجِدٌ أُسِّسَ عَلَى التَّقْوَى مِنْ أَوَّلِ يَوْمٍ أَحَقُّ أَن تَقُومَ فِيهِ. Allah described this in Surah At-Tawbah as being the first masjid that's built in Islam, and was built on taqwa, on piety. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this in the Quran. So the camel, the she-camel al-Qaswa, this is her name, came all the way to a certain place, and then she sat. Barakat al-Naqa. Then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't come out or anything. He waited there. She stood up again, and then continued for a few steps, and then came back to the same spot and sat again. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "This is the place. We're gonna camp here. We're gonna, stay here." He built his masjid in here, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and everybody was trying to get him to his house, but Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, one of the giants of Islam, he took the rahl of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the mata', the bags and the luggage of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He got it to his house. Then everybody was saying, "Rasulullah, come to me, come to me." He said, "Al-mar'u ma'a rahlihi." A person should follow his luggage anyway. So Abu Ayyub istadafa Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He hosted the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam for a few days, and then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would start putting things together, and he will arrange for a couple of things that he will do, almost the first thing he will do in Medina. But before we do so, before he Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam does so, the people in Medina, in Mecca, will join him. So Ali ibn Abi Talib came like 3 days after that. He joined the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and he came walking on his feet. That's amazing. For almost, as we said, 450 kilometers, over 300 miles walking in the desert. He was just coming walking until he reached Medina. His feet, was almost, with no flesh on the bottom. It was gone. So he wanted to join the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He just stayed in Medina for the 3 days because the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam he put him in charge of the trusts and deposits and things. People used to give the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam their precious things. And even though they were his enemies, he could have probably taken these stuff to himself, but this is not, the Prophet ﷺ would do so. So he asked Ali radiallahu anhu to remain behind him in Mecca to give everybody what belongs to him, and then Ali joined him. Then Ahl Bayt Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after الأمور يعني استقرت, after everything settled down, 6 months after that, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would send Zayd ibn Haritha wa Abu Rafi', a couple of his friends, to Mecca to bring, his family members like Fatima wa Kulthum, the daughters of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and al-Mu'mineen Sauda, his wife. You said after the death of Khadija, 3 years before that, he got married to Sauda bint Zam'a. So he sent to bring her back Ayman and Usama ibn Zayd and all of these. And also Abu Bakr sent to bring his children, Ruman, his wife, Asma, Aisha, radiallahu anhu ajma'in. They joined them. Before I close, there was a couple of incidents here that happened. Or one incident, Hijrah Suhaib. Suhaib al-Rumi, this was a Roman person who came and, before Islam or sometime before that to Mecca, and he made some good money. He was a businessman, merchant, good merchant. But now when it was Hijrah, the Quraysh people stopped him. They said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm just leaving, leave me alone." They said, "No, you came to us with nothing and you made a big money in here. Now you want to leave with this money? We will only leave you go if you leave your money." He said, "Is that what you want? Take all the money." He left them all the money, and he told them even about the rest of his money to take it, and then he went to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he reached Medina, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam قال له ربح البيع أبا يحيى بكنيته. He said, "By Allah, your business, your trade is successful, Abu Yahya." Because he traded, the Hijrah, Islam. He chose Islam, and the price that he paid all of his money for these people. He said, "You got a successful transaction." Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will definitely pay you even more. When they came to Medina, Medina at the beginning, it was قالوا كانت أوبأ أرض الله. It was not a healthy place to live in, and it has a lot of diseases and sicknesses that was famous. It was famous for. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam made the dua, and also the people of Mecca, they started حنوا إلى بلدهم وكذا. They are strangers anyway in this city. They started feeling that they, homesickness, and they are talking about Mecca, their places, their, hometown and so on. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam made this dua to Allah: اللهم حبب إلينا المدينة كحبنا مكة أو أشد وصححها وبارك في صاعها ومدها وانقل حماها فاجعلها بالجحفة. He made this dua: Allah, make Medina a healthy place to live in, and bless Medina and make us love it, make it beloved to us, just like Mecca or even more. After that, Muslims love, they settle down, they love the Medina so much, it becomes a very healthy place. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded to the dua of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After that, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam will start his business and his action for establishing da'wah and establishing the Muslim community in Medina. We know this inshallah next time. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وجزاكم الله خيرا.